Thank you, Dani, for being here today. I'm going to start by giving a brief introduction to Imperial Advisory, and then I'm going to let Dani introduce himself, and then we are going to talk a little bit about manufacturing and distribution companies and what's going on in that space, thinking about COVID, inflation, and all sorts of other interesting things. So my name is Gershon Morgulis. I'm the founder of Imperial Advisory. I'm pleased to be joined today by my partner, Bob Doyle. I saw Barry Sherrick. We may have some other people from the team on, but I didn't see too many faces last time I looked. And I'm the founder of Imperial Advisory. Imperial Advisory is a team of fractional or part-time CFOs. We go into businesses and we help people make better, more informed business decisions. Typically in a larger company, the CFO is one of the most trusted advisors of the CEO. And by hiring a fractional CFO, smaller companies that don't necessarily need a full-time CFO are able to get the benefit of having a CFO without paying full price. Obviously, you only get it part-time, but if that's what you need, then that's a great deal. We also go into companies that have CFOs from time to time and provide what we call consulting services, where we'll kind of work as a second set of hands, second set of eyes to an existing CFO. And we've done that at large companies, and it's lots of fun. Anyway, many of our people have been COOs or CEOs as well. And on average, our CFOs have over 30 years of experience. Today I'm pleased to host Dani Kaplan. Dani is a friend. We've known Dani for a long time. Well, I met him before COVID. We've been to lunch numerous times, and it's not the first time he's joining our webinars. I think it's third, maybe. And so Dani is a great networker, and he's been involved in building software and getting involved in that stuff for a lot of his career. But over the last, I don't know how many years, I'm sure Dani will tell us, Dani has been working on software for manufacturing and distribution companies. And so in that capacity, Dani speaks with lots of people and gets a feel for what the problems are and what some of the solutions are, what are some of the things on business owners' minds, and what we can do about those things. So I'm very excited to have Dani here. And Dani, welcome. You want to, I guess, introduce yourself, and then we can get started with the questions and the presentation.
Thank you, Gershon, for running the webinar for me, and I appreciate you besides being a good friend. I'm look forward to meeting you for lunch soon. Hi, everybody. I want to thank you for coming to the presentation. It will be about supply chain issues, what businesses are facing today, inventory shortages, delivery unpredictable, cost rate going out of control, and the software. My background is consulting. I've been doing it for the past since 1980. In the 80s, I met the IBM executives and took a company for $60 to $45 million, which read in a trade magazine. The presentation today will be about manufacturing, distribution of food, issues they're facing, and why they're facing it, and how to resolve it. This is the first issue we have. When just-in-time was available, nobody worried about the inventory. It was shipped to the warehouse or it dropped to the customer. And when it arrived at the warehouse, it was manually placed in the wrong location. When people did not worry about the inventory, they came in to pick it up. It wasn't there. They adjusted the computer, and often the computer was adjusted wrong. They close the warehouse once a year to check, to count inventory, and they find out misplaced inventory. This misplaced inventory collected dust. Why it collect dust? They bought new inventory. Some of it became outdated, like electronics, telephones, which are changing very rapidly, today's reality. But business owners view it as the cost of doing business. Why buy new software that they can count every location with a radio frequency gun? It's expensive and requires training. As a matter of fact, I spoke to a CPA of a large accounting firm, and I told him that his client should go to a modern software and not have misplaced inventory. And he said, well, if they don't do inventory count physically, then I will use my revenues because I have to count, verify what they do. This is today's reality. COVID created a brand new reality. What it was shipped before to the warehouse is being shipped to the customer now. Consumers don't go to the shopping mall anymore, or at least did not go for 2 years. So now what's happening is drop ship to the customer home or office or apartment, and it's a brand new reality now for the manufacturer and for the distributor. So it's have to meet the new reality, knowing how much they have in inventory, when to ship it, and who to allocate, and what's available after they have. They might have 100,000 items in stock. They allocate for production 80,000. They allocate for future orders like Amazon and Walmart 50,000. The net inventory, that's what counts. If they can't keep track on it, they join the Toyota Club and Mercedes Club of closing plants. And when they ship the orders late, either they get canceled or get penalized by the chain store. The next issue is the freight cost. Last I've heard, freight costs were $25,000. So what that means is you need to know the cost of each container, which is tracking, container, the custom agent, and all that. So the cost can vary from 25, 23, 28. You must have real-time analytic, averaging the cost, knowing what it costs you. If you don't have it, you might sell it for less than you should or at a loss. This is brand new technology we have now.
Danny, can I interrupt for a second?
Sure, thank you.
I want to mention that I think Bob and I together were on a call with someone a couple of months ago, and they were shipping things in from overseas. And one of their major issues was they were dividing the cost of shipping across all the items in a pallet, let's say. And they had, but the cost was really driven by the size of the item or by the weight of the item. And they had some items that were very small and some items that were very large. And they ended up with costs being completely misallocated. And because the costs were completely misallocated, they were misunderstanding their cost of goods. And therefore, when they would go and imagine you have one really small item and one really big item, and the really small item costs you $1 to ship, and the really big item costs you $10 to ship, but you think that each one costs you $5.50, you know, and then they were marking it up, but they just were misunderstanding their costs. And if you're operating with tight margins, as some of these people are, they were having a huge issue. So anyway, just wanted to highlight that.
That's a very common problem, Gershon. A few years ago, I've spoken to a $200 million company that sold novelties. And the CFO told me, we are not going to spend on software. It works fine for us. We are very profitable, and we are not worried about the landed cost. A year later, I get a call from the accounting firm. The dollar dropped substantially, and they sold the product for $1 million losses because they miscalculated the cost. And the CPA asked, the partner CPA asked me, what do we do about it? And I told him, you close the barn after the horse left the barn. There is nothing we can do now about it. We should talk about it a couple of years ago when I told you we need the ERP software. The cost issue is a very important issue today because the container up and down and the freight bill and the tracking, you must know what it costs you. A good example is I use a Parker. When I bought it, was $100. Today it's $150 because it comes in multiple shipment from overseas. I sent a pair of shoes to fix by Mephisto, and I was told it take 3 months to fix it. The shortage of inventory. That's an issue we are facing today. Now, one thing companies are doing today, cutting costs is a major issue today. Everybody has to cut costs. So RF gun costs $3,000 to $4,000. A lot of companies have coming from software that are 20 years old. And they're using to paper pick. When they look at the gun, they get a blank look. You must be kidding me. It requires training, and they refuse to use it. So we told them, the company representative told them, you know what? We give you a smartphone with the back of it, a scanner. Everybody knows who used a smartphone. It costs $400. If it breaks, buy a brand new one. And you don't have to maintain like an RF gun for $3,000. Great success, that's the fill rate, 99.9%. Second issue, in the old world, before COVID, people used to, sales rep would call in the orders or fax them in. And the customer service will enter into the computer. But today, with the smartphone technology, they view the customer information to the smartphone, they view what the customer bought, and tell the customer, item A was a great success. Item B was less of success, and number C was no success. So now they become the trusted advisor to the customer, tell him what you should buy. The customer tell him what they want to buy, they enter it on a smartphone, and update the computer in real-time mode. No need to call the order and fax it. One client, which has an overseas location in California and New York, had 30 people taking the orders from the rep calling in. Now they're down to 5 people. Customers using smartphones. We have a client with 100 locations nationwide, plumbing supply. The contractors at night enter the things they need. They run 3 shifts. In the morning, the package is ready. They drop it in the back of the pickup truck and drive away. Truck driver delivery, like Amazon or FedEx or one of those carriers, the delivery to the customer. Whatever the customer refuses, they enter into the phone and the host update the host, and the host issue credit instantly. What the customer received, the driver scans it in, scan the document, update the phone. They also go on the food industry end that we have software for, like a supermarket shelf. They scan the shelf and they see which product was sold or was taken off. They replenish it, scan it, the customer sign the document, and update the host computer. It's all done in real-time mode. There is no more batch entry that often you can lose. This is a brand new reality today we are all facing, if we like it or not. You must know what you have in stock. I don't care if you have 1 million items and if you allocate 700,000. You don't know when your order will come in. If you don't have enough in production available after you allocate it, you join Toyota, Mercedes, Honda Club, closing plants. You allocate orders for Amazon or Walmart for the next 10, 12 months. You have to know in advance how much you left over after you allocate. Next thing, who do you buy it from? How much to pay for it and before we used to buy based on cost. Give me the best price, we'll buy it for you. Today it's changed. How fast can I get it? And then the cost doesn't matter. The analytics software we have, it has dashboard with pie chart, graphs, number, and give you real-time analytic of the entire company picture. How much inventory you have after you allocate for future orders or production. What other activity? What Gershon just mentioned, the cost. With the analytics software, it shows you a small box was shipped for $1, came in for $1. A big box came for $10. The analytics software analyzes it to tell you what it is. Another issue is what product you buy. I like to compare it to an unemployed person going to the supermarket. They don't buy chocolate, they don't buy cake, they buy meat, vegetables, and bread. You have to know what item to buy because you can only buy certain items. You need to know what the first moving item are, who to buy it from based on the timetable delivery and then the cost, and to which customer to allocate it. Amazon and Walmart and those guys are the big gorillas. You cannot allocate all your inventory to them. If people remember JCPenney, the saying goes, if JCPenney was your main client and they dropped you, you're out of business. So you have to allocate the inventory proportionally. Now, to which customer you allocate after the big guys. The analytic tells you customer A pays in 30 days. Customer B pays 60 days and C pays 90 days. So that enables you to know to which customer to allocate the available inventory after the big guys got it. The last piece is download to a spreadsheet. That's a very important issue. Bank and insurance company in the past, before the COVID, they were agreed to the closing the warehouse quarterly, 6 months a year, and take an inventory. Today it changed. They expect you to give you real-time information what your inventory is. Bankers told me, if the client goes out of business, the bank owns the inventory and I lose my job. I'd rather lose the client than lose my job. Insurance company don't trust the inventory because it might be overinflated. It might have, if it's electronics, it might be electronics that were out of date already. And if you sell the company, I was told by M&As, if you don't have real-time information, the buyer will pay you less money because they don't trust the report. The bank now and the insurance company require real-time information. Give me your inventory, and if you tell them, give me 10 minutes, I will download to a spreadsheet and email it to you, they're happy. If you do it, your credit line will not be lowered, and the insurance company will not raise your premium. It became a very common practice resulting of the COVID. This is a brand new issue now. Today, we live in M&A world. Inventory shortage, prices are changing. You have to stream your operation to buy the product. Now, because of inventory shortages, a manufacturer will buy a supplier, so they don't have to worry about the competition getting the parts and they're running out of it. A distributor will play the same game, buy a manufacturing company that's a big supplier of his, and they have both world. That works very, very well if you can control your inventory. But like everything else in life, nothing is perfect. You end up with multiple systems. Then create a brand new issue. You have multiple software that have to integrate to each other, create data conflict and inaccuracy. We just closed a very big deal of $100 million company. They had 6 separate modules coming to the main host computer. They ship the wrong products to the wrong customer, and they get calls upset about the situation. The owner wanted to buy his competitor, and the CEO told him, on my dead body. unless we buy brand new software that has manufacturing, distribution of food, we're not going to move. So they buy the software now. The user is a different issue. Hopscotch from one ERP to the other ERP, trying to get the data, and often it's corrupted. And the next issue is calling the vendor, AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile. It's not my fault, call somebody else, a headache. On top of it, you have to pay multiple license fee. License fee can be expensive for each ERP, $10, $15, $20,000. You multiply 3-4 times, substantial money. This is a case study of one of our clients who had both systems, manufacturing and distribution. The worldwide manufacturer that distributed plastic to the range shop and all that. They had two software next to each other, manufacturing and distribution, and have the headache of integration. Today, they have one software, the company represents VAI, which is manufacturing, distribution of food, single database, all integrated, and reduces the cost substantially. One software, the software represent, gives you the warehouse, financial, analytic, and it's real-time information. Some people buy warehouse alone and try to integrate it into the old software. They open a can of worms. If the integration is bad, it's corrupted data. With integrated software, you have all the modules in one shot and you don't have to jump around. If you have multiple locations, like we have a client with 100 locations nationwide, the Wisconsin warehouse might have the inventory, but the Dallas warehouse might not have the inventory. So by having a full picture of the cloud of all the warehouses, they can ship from one warehouse to another warehouse, or ship to the customer with a common carrier. Before the Colvet, they upload the data to the branches every day at nighttime, and sometimes it fails, and they never had a real picture. Today, it's real-time information, they have everything. In today's reality, having real-time information is a necessity. Otherwise, you have an issue. If you know which each warehouse has, you can ship from multiple warehouses, and then you restock the warehouse that is short of. Those are case studies of clients. Ethical product. They had a 20, 30 years old software. When they saw the RF gun, they froze because they used to do pay-per-pick. We told them, fine, we'll give you a smartphone with a scanner, and that's the result. Seed Harvey has 100 locations nationwide. The contractors enter the information on a smartphone at night. They went to 3 shifts, they have 3 shifts running. In the morning, the contractor runs in, the pickup engine is running, grab the box, throw it in the car, and drive away. What happens in manufacturing? Saving alone in 1 year, $100,000. That's the benefit of fully integrated software. Manufacturing, distribution, food in one database. Those are return on investment. Imperial debt, quadruple the business through M&A.
They have a very good name.
Sorry, Gershon.
It's Imperial, they have a very good name. That's our name. The owner of Imperial just put on LinkedIn that he bought company number 76. The videos on my website. As they buy companies, VAI does all the integration, transfer the data over, train the user, and done any tailoring they need. Black River is a different case. Produce don't have a barcode. So they use a headset. It tells them, pick up 500 tomatoes, 300 cucumbers, 600 cauliflowers, and they ship it immediately because produce is spoiling very quickly. This is the return on investment. And Adam Harp on manufacturing, $100,000.
This is VA offering, single database software, cloud or server option. Some companies have a very weak internet connection, so cloud does not make sense to them. In this case, they have to have a software. It doesn't matter to us. 90% of people today go with the cloud. The source code is provided. Very few software companies provide a source code. We give the client a source code. It's yours. You're free to change it. If there is an issue, the hotline are all programmers. They will dial in. It doesn't matter who created the issue. We fix it and go back to work. We tailor the software to meet your business requirement. Some software companies require to change your business, like SAP, fitting a square peg in a round hole, create business upheaval of people have to learn new modules and not be perform well in a very long training cycle. It's integrated to multiple warehouse other application. A good example is a tracking company. Software that tells the warehouse you have the amount of inventory we have will fit in 3 trucks. And then it tells the warehouse people, put the last truck inventory at the back of the truck, and the first truck the first stop in the front of the truck. And on the first truck, so much inventory will fit, and then second and third truck. Then it tells the driver, like MapQuest, which way to go first and how to go to save gas. The software is designed for mid-market companies, manufacturing, distribution, and food. My website has customer testimonials and videos. And I will answer any questions you have. I hope you enjoy the presentation.
Danny, where did the cost savings come from? You showed some ROIs. So I would imagine, did those come from cost savings or increased profitability or?
Cost saving come in multiple places. Number one, when you mentioned before, landed cost, Gershon. The client knows exactly what the product cost him with multiple shipments. That's the first one. Number two, knowing what your inventory is. Not getting order cancellations or production get disruption, where the production people sitting with scratching their head when not being able to work or laying off people because, like Toyota, Honda, because we ran out of inventory. The next cost reduction is the sales rep and the customer entering the information on the phone. You don't call the order in, or you don't fax the order in. So the customer service line, instead of taking the faxed order or EDI order, entering the machine, they can focus now on customer service and answer customer issues. Those are big improvement. In the case of the food industry of Imperial bag, they use Microsoft software before for distributor. But all dogs are German Shepherd and Poodle are both dogs. A food distributor is not a normal distributor. Pro distributor have an issue. Today in inventory, tomorrow is unsellable inventory. So they must ship the inventory the same day when it comes in. So the voice speak can be in English, Spanish, or any language. Tell the customer how much to pack and tell the picker how much to pick up, and it goes straight out to the truck. When we met them, they were about $20 million. Today, they're a $100 million company. Any more questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Besides for timely reporting, are there other things that banks are having issues with that due to what's going on now? Like, are banks paying closer attention to inventory? Are they paying closer attention to on-time shipments? To, like, is there anything that banks are specifically looking for, or they just want things quickly because they're nervous in general?
The banks are I compare the banks to Arabic horses, who are very skittish. they are worried, include M&A people told me, they are very worried. If you have excess inventory and you have outdated software and you go out of business, the bank owns the inventory. It's also asset-based companies are this, it's the same category. They require you real-time information now. And that's why we have such a big influx now of people upgrading the software. Last week, I got a call from a CFO who was referred to me, who told me they do injection, for the Corvette. And they have it also location in Hungary. And he wants to go live in 9 months, and he expects to be $200 million. And he tells me he wants a translation in Hungarian. I told him 9 months is a very very tight timetable to go live. And he has a 20-year-old software company. I told him we can do the data conversion in no time, any customization in no time, but training the user requires the time. A month before you go live, we have to ask the user to make every mistake under the sun and fix it. If they can fix it, they go live. If not, we postpone a month. He said, no, I must be live in 9 months. I said, it's a tight squeeze. It's about 40, 50 users. And the next issue is in Hungarian. You have to get, I don't know who has Hungarian translation. We give you the source code, and you need to get Hungarian person who speaks Hungarian to translate the code. Any other question?
Dani, it's Brian.
Hi, Brian.
I have a question for you. You know that my expertise is on employee health and benefits, but from a business insurance standpoint, obviously employers are insuring their products, and that's a variable number and it's a moving number. Sometimes they're overinsured, sometimes they're underinsured. So can you touch a little bit about how your services can help write the appropriate insurance risk for employers?
The main key is integrated software and analytic. Is the IBM Cognos software that it's part of the whole enterprise and give you a full picture. You have a million pieces, but you allocated 700,000. You really have 300,000 available now. The delivery time is 6 to 9 months from now. So either you slow your production, or you might run out of inventory, and your production, you have to close the plant, which happened to Toyota and Hyundai. A second issue is shipping to Amazon and the big chain stores. You ship your product late, they will not, before Corvette, they would reject it. But with today's inventory shortage, they will take it. But they have a fancy word called chargeback. You build $100,000 and you get paid $80,000. So having real-time analytic information, what you have in stock, what you buy, who to buy, how much to buy, the cost becomes secondary now. When can I get is priority number one. Prior to the Corvette, cost was priority number one. Now, delivery date is priority number one. And for insurance purposes, if they take inventory once a quarter, 6 months, once a year, and they tell you I have $5 million worth of inventory, how do you know if it's accurate inventory? There must have been 10% got lost because it was misplaced. If it's PCs, well, PC are sold now anyway, but if it's telephones or electronic pieces or TV, it's a very quick turnover. So the $1 million estimate they gave you, it's really, in reality, $800,000 estimate. So insurance company will raise the premium rather than in case of a fire or water or a hurricane to cover themselves. M&A people told me if the buyer don't get real-time information, the seller will lose money. He gets less money for the company because they devalue the company because they don't trust the inventory. Inventory became a huge issue now because of the COVID and the reality. And now the war in Ukraine created a different problem. China closed the port is a second problem. So delivery becomes scarce and more difficult. You must have real-time information of everything that's going on. It's essential.
Thanks, Danny.
Danny, it's a little bit, I think it's a little out of the scope of what you're presenting, but I think you probably see people that do this. What's sort of the best practice these days in terms of pricing? Because, you know, you've got container prices changing daily. You've got transportation prices changing daily. Are people adjusting their prices to replacement costs, to estimated next cost, historical costs? What are companies doing?
The analytics software tells you per shipment how much the cost is. So if you got a container that went from $20,000 to $28,000, you know that whatever product you have now, forget about the old price it cost you. Across the board, you adjust the whole cost of the sale price based on the last shipment. Otherwise, you end up selling your product at the lower gross profit than you should, because the next shipment might be $35,000 container. Because the waiting going now, it's basically it's a supplier world now. The supplier can charge you whatever they want to. If you don't like it, somebody else will buy it. So the less shipment determines the cost of the product. That's why I brought the analogy of the Parker pen before. It cost $100,000. It cost $100 when I bought it. Today it's probably $150. And the less shipment determines the cost of the product. And the analytics software tells you your products are, you sell it at 120. The less shipment went from $20,000 container to 30 grain container. So now your cost went up X amount of percent. So you go and you price your entire product across the board. That's reality we are facing. That's why we go to supermarket and we bought yesterday for $10. It's $11 today. And when you ask him why, they say, well, guess what? It's today's reality. It's being done, a live example is the supermarket or the store. The price changing from day to day. Or restaurant. I ate in a Japanese restaurant and the menu was crossed over and everything was $2 more because the cost they're getting in is higher. That's all facing now. If we like it or not, it's a brand new reality now. And there is no magic wand for it because I stopped watching the news. It depresses me. Ukraine, and now with Finland is worried, Sweden is worried. I'm afraid we're going into a much harder time and the issue will become more acute than they are today. Any other questions?
Danny, I just have one other question from a business development standpoint. Can you share maybe a question or two that we could ask our clients, CFOs and our clients, that would open a discussion that ultimately could lead to an introduction for you or for Gershon? That would be helpful.
Sure. Two questions. Question number one, how good of a handle you have of your inventory? Or how accurate is your inventory? If they tell you, well, I need to close the warehouse to count it, it's a huge red flag
Got you.
because they don't know what the inventory is. Issue number one. Issue number two, do you have actual good control of your landed cost? Here's an example. The small item was $1, the big item was $10. How do you price your item? If you don't have good control of your landed cost, guess what, honey? You sold it below what you should, below cost, or low gross profit. It's a good way to get a headache. And then when your accounting firm comes in and does your auditing, they tell you, I had a client that I brought the case before. Novelties, they were $100 million. They tell me we lost $1 million because they couldn't keep track on the landed cost. That was 20 years ago. The dollar dropped. And they were basing the sale of the dollar price. And they didn't realize they paid more for the item than they did.
Right.
And then the accounting firm asking, what can we do? You close the barn after the barn door of the horse left. You have to be, especially in today's reality, become more and more acute. Before the COVID, business owners did not want to spend money on software.
Mm-hmm.
It's expensive, it requires training, it worked for 20 years. Why do it now? The old generation especially are known for it. Today, the younger generation tell them, guess what, honey? Either we control the cost or we go out of business.
Right.
We can't afford having inventory misplaced.
Right.
Because
And Danny,
inventory.
in the mid-market space, what would you say as far as percentages of organizations that have a good grasp of their inventory, and for those who maybe think they have a good grasp but truly don't? Is it a greater percentage that don't have a true grasp on what their existing inventory is?
I would say maybe 60%, maybe 70% don't have a growth, because until COVID, they all have the same excuse, not going to worry about it, cost of doing business.
Right.
Now what they're doing is, rather than buying brand new software, some of them doing, they only buy the warehouse software. Like Microsoft Dynamic for distributor has no warehouse module. So they buy a separate module. That's interfacing a Mercedes engine to a Honey transmission. You have a good mechanic, it's working very well. You have a big mechanic, that corrupted data. The software business is booming now because people realize that the banks, that's what the phone call I got 2 weeks ago, the Zoom session I had. It's a 20-year-old software. Now he's in a rush to buy software because he got a huge contract from the government for the injection for the COVID, and he does not know how he's going to fulfill it because the manufacturing injection, he has problem keeping track on the inventory coming in, when it will come in, how much to buy, and how much to produce. So he wants to go live less than 9 months. And I explained to him it's impossible with 40, 50 users, because if they're not proficient, they will make mistakes. Imperial Bag went live, and that's a very good case study. It was accounting firm in Long Island, Biscotti and Toback. He used to have once a year very elaborate dinners, and he would have 100 CEOs, CFOs there. And Imperial dead CEO was the guest speaker there, the keynote speaker, and that was the Obamacare issue then. So he told the audience, CFO, CEOs, I had a sleepless night before I went live, afraid I will not be able to ship my orders. I have good news for you. Everything got shipped without a hitch. The consulting team, the technical team were on site. They will not leave until we're convinced we are totally proficient. But before the client goes live, we'll tell the user, make every mistake under the sun and fix it. If you can fix it, you're ready to go live. If you can't fix it, Now, before the client signed the contract, a project director will come in, like the client we just get, $200 million company. He does a study. What are your business requirements? And we create 3 lists, A, B, C. A, I must say before I go live. B, after I go live, and C, maybe. B, 90% of B never gets done, and C doesn't get done because it's in the new software and the kind for 20-year software. We convert the entire data from the old software to the new software to a separate environment, call it test environment. Keep people are testing it every day. There is no need for parallel. After a week or so, they're fine. Before we go live, the user they're told, make mistakes and fix it. If they can fix it, they go live. If they can't fix it, it's postponed by a month. We have very high rate and we give the source code. And should a mistake happen, it's a bug, user error, whatever. Hotline are all programmers. Don't touch it. We're dialing in. We're going to fix it and go back to work. VI has a client going back to 1976. And I have an interesting story for you. Bob Vomitak, the owner, is a close friend of mine. Height of the COVID, they called me at 11:15. And his wife told him, don't you think Dani is asleep already? He said, no, Dani is awake. He reads and listens to classical music. He said, I met an Israeli client from 76, and he asked and reminded you, did you get your COVID shot? I told him, yes. After finally I was able to get it. Good, nine peaceful. VI's client going back to 1976. Now, the release level, 90% of the clients are the current release. 10% are older release, but every release is being covered. And I had a case study of an accounting firm calling me that the CFO is unhappy with the software, VI software, and asking what release they are. There are 7, 8 release backward. So I called the accounting firm, let me arrange a demo with the vice president, show you the current software. The reason why they did not upgrade, the IT manager did not want to learn new features. The CFO loved the new features, told the IT manager, either you learn the new software or look for another job. But that's a rare reality. Most people are 1 or 2 releases behind. But they're not being forced to go. They can stay as much as they want back. Hi, Peter. Any question, Peter?
None. Those were good questions moving forward.
All right.